One of my all-time favorite pieces of gaming-related advertising and cover was from Ballistics, a ball game coming from Reflections and being published by Cyclops, a subsidiary of Psygnosis. And everybody fancies games that involves balls, right? In Ballistics we have to score more goals than our opponents, but there are magnets, a splitter, bumpers, hoovers and blowers to make that apparent simple task way harder. The first versions to arrive are for the 16-bit home computers, the Amiga and the Atari ST, but it's also due for release on the BBC Micro, C64, MS-DOS and the Acorn Electron. Activision is ready to publish the arcade conversion of Sega's arcade original Time Scanner for practically all home computers, the Atari ST, the Amiga, the Amstrad CPC, the MSX, the Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum. It features 4 scrolling tables, each packed with fantasy-oriented features and hazards that will send the ball off to new screens among other funky situations. Amiga owners can finally play Super Hang-On, courtesy of Electric Dreams software. Although very similar to the Atari ST version, it isn't at all a straight port across. It uses the Amiga's superior sound capabilities to produce some awesome and groovy soundtracks. Bullfrog Productions have been working on Populous for over 6 months. Peter Molyneux is the main programmer, with graphics by Glenn Corpse and the atmospheric music and sound effects from musician Dave Hanlon. 40% of the time was spent developing the artificial intelligence routines to generate a believable universe to play with, part of which was originally modeled in Lego to produce accurate dimensions and perspective. On the ever-growing fighting genre, Vigilante is being converted by Emerald Software from the arcade original, and it will be available during this month of March. In this side-scrolling beat-em-up, we have to fight our way through hordes of thugs faithful to the rogue gang that kidnaps our hero's girlfriend Maria. By this time, Spanish developers were gaining more and more enthusiasts in other countries. Dynamic was an example of that, in part because of their amazing covers and loading screens featuring awesomely gorgeous and voluptuous girls. Their games on the other side were normally extremely difficult. Back in 1989, there was a game that always intrigued me. Every time I went to one of my favorite local ZX Spectrum video game selling spots, I got somehow mesmerized by the cover of War in Middle-earth. By that time, I didn't have any background on the magnificent J.R.R. Tolkien masterpiece. Then one day I finally picked the game up and brought it home, placed it in my Spectrum and ran it. My first impressions were of complete blankness. I didn't know what to do, or to what was I looking at. Back then, this was the main problem with pirated games that were normally sold in electronic stores without any kind of officious fiscal control that could protect the intellectual property of their creators. In this particular case, the original boxed game brought a 43-page manual that, obviously, the pirated one didn't have, making it really hard for newbies to the Tolkien universe to understand. The game was released for the ZX Spectrum, Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64, Apple II GS, Atari ST, Amiga and DOS by the Australian software company Melbourne House. If I recall correctly, it was my very first real-time strategy game, and that's where it all began. Then, after War in Middle-earth, came Dune 2, Warcraft, Command & Conquer, etc, etc. Melbourne House was already familiar with J.R.R. Tolkien's work. They've released in 1982 and for all 8-bit machines, The Hobbit, an illustrated text adventure game that went being a bestseller game on the Commodore 64 and the BBC Micro, with estimated total sales of more than 200,000 copies, and also won in '83 the Golden Joystick Award for Best Strategy Game. So, getting back to War in Middle-earth, was it worth it? Is the game really that intense and absorbing as the Lord of the Rings books in which it is based? Right at the start, Frodo, Pippin and Sam are surrounded by Nazgul riders and their first task is to travel to Rivendell, although we're free to decide the game's own progression. The main goal is to take the ring to Mount Doom, but how we do it is completely up to us, the player. In the books, the ring bearer is Frodo, but in War in Middle-earth, Frodo can die. If this occurs, the ring simply passes to other character, but if it falls into the hands of the enemy, it will be taken to Barad-dûr, Sauron's fortress in Mordor, and our quest will be forever lost. Also, if the enemy forces manages to enslave 3 allied citadels, the game will also end. So let's go find some treasures and recruit armies in this early, amazing and involving real-time strategy and role-playing game. Every time we start a new game, a new adventure will also take place, cause there's plenty to do, like for instance, rethink new strategies and find all hidden objects. Besides that first huge impact on the amazing cover art from that little plastic case from the ZX Spectrum game, the 8-bit versions of War in Middle-earth failed to impress. However, the 16-bit ones were considerably enhanced and all play and look identical. The Amiga one has a significantly better audio environment, so if you're a real fan of Middle-earth, you might wanna check this early venture into Tolkien's unmatched fantasy world. At the arcades, Double Dragon 2, Chase HQ, Shadow Warriors and Operation Thunderbolt were taking all the credits. On the Nintendo Entertainment System, Red Racer was making its way up the charts, and on the Master System was the time for R-Type to arrive on Sega's console and make the delight of fans. Amstrad's last brand new computer, the Sinclair PC 200, is dividing opinions. Many were expecting a new 16-bit gaming machine in the likes of the Amiga and the Atari ST, but it's nothing more than a PC clone running MS-DOS and taking advantage of a totally old-fashioned CGA graphics adapter, great for spreadsheets, but totally inadequate for gaming. It's obvious that Amstrad tried to fabricate an affordable family computer that could even be connected out of the box to an existing TV, so it's also obvious that this one was thought out to be a family-oriented product that even mums and dads could master. Even so, and by 1989 standards, this really sounds like a step backwards instead of taking the pleasure of home computing forward. Its success will depend on the right marketing and support from software publishers. Now let's take a look at the most iconic adverts from February and March of '89. And these are the combined charts for the best-selling games from February and March of 1989. On 8-bit home computers, Navy Moves from Dynamic Software, Operation Wolf from Ocean Software, Double Dragon from Binary Design, Afterburner from Software Studios, RoboCop from Ocean Software, On 16-bit home computers, Speedball by the Bitmap Brothers. Elite by Mr. Micro. Lombard Rack Rally by Red Rat Software. Operation Wolf from Ocean Software. And Thunderblade by TR-Tex.